In Pakistan, it's cheaper to buy a hit of heroin than food. The country is infamous as a major transit point for heroin and cannabis from neighboring Afghanistan to the rest of the world. But it's also fighting its own battle with addiction. I'm Steve Chow. On this edition of 101 East, we ask if Pakistan can kick its drug habit. This report from Karishma Vyas.
Pakistan is in the grip of a raging drug epidemic. Millions across the country are hooked on cannabis and heroin, flooding in from neighboring Afghanistan.
I would keep a syringe under my pillow, and even before getting out of bed, I would first inject myself.
It's a deadly scourge that has now infiltrated every class and every age group.
I was about 7 or 8 years old when I started using drugs.
I would take the joints in my hand and I'd suck the smoke in like this.
Drugs are cheap and easily available, and they're destroying countless lives.
All you have to do is to make a phone call and you'll get it. Heroin or anything. Whatever drugs you want, wherever you want it. You call and they'll deliver.
A lack of government funding is crippling law enforcement, and there aren't enough rehabilitation centres. Meanwhile, the drugs continue to flow. This is Karachi, one of the largest cities in the Muslim world. It has all the sights, sounds and smells of a bustling South Asian metropolis, teeming with more than 20 million people. Life on these streets can be brutal. 1 in 4 people live below the poverty line. Nearly half the population can't read or write, and jobs are hard to come by. In this environment, parts of Karachi have been overtaken by gang violence and narcotics abuse. Addicts are sprawled on street corners and roads across the city, openly using drugs. Under a bridge in the north of Karachi, 14-year-old Mohammed Shehzad shows me his drug den. It's filled with rubbish. The city's sewage flows into a nearby canal, and the stench is unbearable.
I must have been 9 or 10 years old when I started smoking hash and drinking alcohol.
Shehzad also admits he has tried heroin. Drugs and crime are a rite of passage for many children in his neighborhood. It's how they pass the time.
I used to just sit around here all night doing drugs. These are my friends that I used to hang out with. We'd smoke hash and do terrible things. We'd rob people and bring the stuff here.
Gangs control the streets in this part of Karachi, and Shehzad quickly learned how to fit in.
My area is full of drug addicts and hooligans. I would sit outside when the electricity went off. Kids would come by and say, "Let's get high." So I would go with them and smoke hash.
All his friends smoke cannabis, and at just 50 cents, it's a cheap high.
नशा शुरू किया था हमने 7 साल उम्र था।
I was about 7 or 8 years old when I first started using drugs. And then I just carried on doing it.
सिगरेट पहले शुरू किया।
It started with cigarettes.
खाली सिगरेट शुरू
And then we would empty the tobacco and mix it with hash like this.
बंदे बनाते थे।
There are more than 6 million drug users in Pakistan. For many, their addiction began with cannabis, but soon led to a dangerous dependency on harder drugs. By the time he became a teenager, Shehzad's life was spiraling out of control. He dropped out of school and says he only cared about getting high.
I've spent a lot of money on hashish. I would steal cash from my dad's shop. I'd steal everything. I didn't leave anything at home, not even a cooking pan or kitchen utensils. My family would ask me where these things went, and I would lie and say, I don't know.
Shehzad's parents tried for years to help him without success. His father resorted to violence and chained him up in their home.
My parents would fight because of me. My dad would ask my mom, why are you giving him money? He would also beat me up and I would cry. He would hit me with a bat or with his sandals. I got beaten up a lot.
With nowhere else to turn, Shehzad's family contacted the AAS Trust, one of the few rehabilitation clinics for children in Pakistan that's providing free care. The patients must volunteer for treatment, but once they enroll, they can't leave until they complete the 3-month program.
I didn't like it at all when I first came here. I would go to the staff every day and say, please let me go home. I really harassed them, swore at them. Then I started thinking, they must leave their own kids at home to take care of us. They're like my own family. I felt bad. I would think, why did I say those things to them? I apologized and that made me feel better.
Shehzad is lucky to be here. The UN says that every year less than 1% of Pakistan's addicts have access to intervention and treatment in Pakistan. And most of that is provided by private NGOs like this one. The treatment is free, but the 10-day detox can be intense.
I thought the minute I get a chance, I'm going to run away from here and get high. But then I would be going down the same path. After 5 or 6 days here, I changed my attitude and I started getting along with people. That felt good.
It's Sunday and relatives are allowed to visit the boys. Shehzad's parents come here every week to get an update on his progress from staff.
मेरा बच्चा सही हो गया अल्लाह का शुक्र और भी सुधर जाए तो खुशी की बात है ऐसा कोई मसला नहीं हम तो बच्चों के लिए कितना परेशान रहते थे भाजी और बस हद से बाहर परेशानी अल्लाह का शुक्र सुकून है कोई ऐसे वैसा दिल में खौफ नहीं आ रहा है कहाँ गया
The centre can house up to 25 boys. Like Shehzad, many are recovering from years of cannabis abuse. Counsellors hope that by treating them early, they can prevent them from progressing to harder drugs. But they are seeing more cases like this boy, who at 14 is hooked on heroin. He has gone through severe withdrawal and his parents are worried. Across the courtyard, a father confronts his son.
अब तुम खुद देखो ये जगह अब यहाँ पे तुम ये तुमने किया गलत है ना जिंदगी भर की निशान रह गया ना गलत बात है ये तुमने किया गलत बात है लेकिन ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए प्यार अपने अंदर प्यार मोहब्बत पैदा करो मोहब्बत को पैदा करेगा जिस्म का हर एक चीज तुम अपनों खुद को तुमको ख्याल करना है
Counsellors say that many children harm themselves to deal with the emotional turmoil that detox brings. The staff keep sharp objects away from them, but still the children find a way.
लेकिन ये बहुत बुरी चीज़ है। क्या है? क्या है? बहुत बुरी चीज़ है। देखो अभी तुम्हारा अम्मा है, हम हैं, तुम्हारा अब्बू है, तुम्हारा बहन है, ये तुम्हारा भाई भी आगे देखेगा, तो क्या बोलेगा? बुरी बात है ना। अभी हमको लग रहा है हम कितना बुरी बात है। अभी कितने निशान है मैं तो गिन भी नहीं सकता हूँ।
But not all parents visit their children. Many families can't or won't come to the centre.
संडे के दिन में फाइटिंग इसी वजह से।
On Sundays we see lots of fights because they miss their families. When they were on drugs, they didn't care about their mothers. They wouldn't go home for a year and a half. But when they come here and see other kids interacting with their families, then they also want to go home. They want their mothers and fathers' love.
This boy ran away from home so long ago that he doesn't remember where his relatives live. The staff have become his substitute family. Aftab Alam has been working here for 5 years and has helped hundreds of children kick their habit.
When they're in withdrawal, they even curse our mothers and sisters, but we take it. We sit them down and talk to them with love. We give them cold water to drink, give them a bath. We let their anger cool down.
And no one knows better than Aftab what these children are going through. His addiction to drugs started when he was just 8. By the time he was 15, Aftab had dropped out of school and started breaking into homes to feed his habit.
I would just be sick all over the floor and make a mess. I felt like I was dying. I would get tremors in my body. It would hurt so much that I would slam my head against the wall. I would act like a crazy person.
His dependency was so strong that he couldn't start his day without a cocktail of heroin and prescription drugs.
I would keep a syringe under my pillow, and even before getting out of bed, I would first inject myself. Then I would be able to get up and use the bathroom. If I didn't use, I would have no idea what I was doing. I would get diarrhea, my stomach would hurt, my body would ache, my eyes would water, my body would go through withdrawal, and all my joints would hurt.
Today, Aftab is one of the clinic's most successful cases. He has been drug-free for 5 years and works for the centre on the streets of Karachi, encouraging users to get clean.
The best thing I can tell these addicts is, I was like you. Look at my lips. I've smoked so many cigarettes that they're black. What drugs do you use? I did them all for many years, even heroin. And then they think, yeah, he knows about all the stuff I do. He must have done it too. And then they start to trust me, and I can become a role model for them.
Today, Aftab is looking for addicts in Orangi town, a Karachi neighbourhood notorious for gang violence. It's not long before he finds a group of men high on heroin. Amjad Naveed is 27. He has been abusing drugs for years and says he has hit rock bottom. His wife has left him and he goes for days without eating or bathing. It's a familiar story. He was introduced to cannabis at 14, but soon his dealer gave him a free sample of heroin and he was hooked.
रात को गाड़ी में से आते हैं, खाना खाते हैं, वही कुत्ते की ज़िंदगी है यहाँ के, सो जाते फुटपाथ पे। 16 साल हो गए भाई इसी करते करते ज़िंदगी में।
क्योंकि देखें मैं आपके सामने बैठा हूँ, मैं खुद भी इस पे फंसा हुआ था, आप देख सकते हो, मैं खुद भी इंजेक्शन सिरिंज ठीक है। मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि जैसे कि 6 साल मैंने नशा किया था ना।
Amjad wants help, but even as he looks at pictures of the rehabilitation centre, he continues to snort heroin.
आज मैं करोला एक्सेल कार में घूम रहा होता।
बस अजीब और गरीब ख्यालात आते हैं बाजी कि अब तो बिल्कुल जैसे दिल खट्टा हो चुका है, वही बोलते वो सोच के बोलते हैं कि यार पी के मर जाएगा, नहीं पी के नहीं मरेगा, यही सोच के बस बर्दाश्त कर लेते हैं। लेकिन कोई बेचने वाला आता है, वही उससे पकड़म पकड़ाई, लड़ाई झगड़ा, ये चीज़ें होती हैं बाजी।
The United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime estimates that Pakistan has more than 6 million drug users. At least 4 million are addicts, and the numbers are growing. The epidemic is destroying families. Users often disappear from their homes, leaving distraught parents behind.
We are seeing more and more people attracted towards the drugs and the availability of the drugs. We are definitely concerned. We are concerned for our children, because when you talk to them, they already know the names of certain very dangerous drugs.
A cheap and endless supply of drugs from neighbouring Afghanistan is fueling this epidemic. Every year, billions of dollars worth of heroin and hashish floods across the porous border on its way to foreign markets. It's estimated that about 150 tons of heroin enters Pakistan each year. 44 tons of that is consumed locally.
The region has to do something. The world has to do something. The United Nations has to do something. These opiates in Afghanistan, they destroy the region. They are destroying the Western world as well. So we are worried.
Brigadier Mohammed Abuzar heads the anti-narcotics force in Sindh province, where Karachi is the capital. He wants to show me the lengths that traffickers go to smuggle drugs. We've been driving for about an hour outside of Karachi, and we're heading towards Port Qasim, which is the third largest port. And we're actually going there because the anti-narcotics force seized 80 kilograms of heroin, which was packed inside a container heading to Turkey. Officials received a tip-off about a shipment that was heading to Ankara. After checking cargo records at the port, they pinpointed this container.
We reached this container through the effort of our informers, through the electronic tracking, and through the effort of these guys.
But it wasn't easy to find the drugs at first glance. Inside these boxes of towels, there was a secret lining that concealed heroin. So they cut the side of the packaging.
Of the packaging,
and that's
as
where
well.
the drugs were.
That's where the drugs were. So they were actually made inside the packaging. They made the packaging in 2 layers. So it was all machine made. It was not handmade.
Yeah.
So this is how.
That's a very sophisticated.
It's a very
operation.
sophisticated operation.
Seizures like this are common. Last year, the ANF netted a record 250 tons of drugs worth $750 million. This time, the traffickers were caught and now face the death penalty under Pakistan's tough laws. Back at headquarters, we find the ANF officers have conducted another raid. They've seized 100 kilograms of hashish, a potent derivative of cannabis.
Maqsood, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Fine. So this is
the
today's catch?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And how many people apprehended?
4 people, sir.
4 people?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well done.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
The ANF's drug storage room is overflowing. But experts say that the majority of narcotics are slipping through the net. They simply don't have the resources to stem the flow of drugs. The organisation is missing more than 1/6 of its workforce because of a lack of funding. They're also fighting corruption.
Local law enforcement agencies are involved, I will exclude the anti-narcotics force from these, but the anti-narcotics police from the excise and taxation department and our local police, they are heavily involved. In my experience, without involvement of the top level, such a big game can't be played.
Yes, it goes on. I can't really say about the other departments, but as far as ANF is concerned, we are very, very strict. We have a complete system of overwatch, and we know how important job we are doing. So definitely, we have to take steps to stop it, to create the deterrence within our force as well, and in the other law enforcement agencies.
It has been 2 days since outreach worker Aftab Alam met heroin addict Amjad Naveed. He is seeing him today to find out if Amjad is serious about rehab. Together, they go to meet his family. After years of watching her son struggle, Amjad's mother has had enough.
I want him to stand on his own 2 feet. Not for me. I don't know what will happen to me. But he has 2 little sisters.
Amjad is the eldest in the family, and all his brothers and sisters have come to encourage him to get treatment. But Amjad is high on heroin and is falling asleep.
मौत इसके 3 ऑप्शन हैं। सबसे पहले तो जेल है, यानी तो ये जेल में बंद हो सकते हैं, या पागल हो सकते हैं नशा करते करते, यानी तो मौत हो सकती है। और मौत से पहले अगर थोड़ा सा समझ आ जाए, एहसास हो जाए यार आगे पीछे मेरे कोई है, तो फिर चौथा ऑप्शन इलाज का होता है।
Eventually Amjad agrees to rehab. For him, the hard work is just beginning. Across town, Shehzad, the teenage addict, has a rare visit home with his counsellor to see his family. He has managed to stay clean for 3 months, and this is his reward.
He's doing so much better now. His face looks fuller and his complexion has improved. He's grown taller and he's even cleaner.
But the centre's counsellor says Shehzad is not out of danger yet. Almost 70% of their addicts relapse, so his mother will have to watch him carefully.
तो जब शहजाद अभी शुरू के दिनों में यहाँ पर घर पर आएगा तो आपको उसका ख्याल रखना।
When Shehzad starts visiting home, you'll have to keep an eye on him. Make sure he doesn't go out again alone, because his friends can give him drugs again. But you can't scare him so much that he doesn't tell you anything. You have to give him love and trust him.
But as we're filming, the counsellor's worst fears come true. Shehzad quietly leaves the house and disappears into the neighbourhood. His mother doesn't know what to do.
Who knows if he'll come back or not? Where will I look for him? What if he doesn't come back? I'm praying to God that he comes back.
Half an hour later, Shehzad returns, but he looks uneasy. He later admits to his counsellor that he smoked hashish with his friends. He says he's still committed to his treatment, and he's even trying to convince his friend to join the centre's rehabilitation program.
None of the staff will hit you. None of the grown-ups will hit you. They'll give you love. Even if you swear at them, they won't hit you.
It's time for Shehzad to return to the centre. It has been a disappointing day for him and his counsellor. He couldn't resist the habits of his old life, and now he must start detox all over again. Shehzad's future is uncertain, but at least he has the chance to kick the habit. Meanwhile, millions of Pakistanis remain trapped by a drug that refuses to release them.
If there was ever a quintessential Chinese comfort food, wonton noodle soup would be it. Once a meal reserved for emperors and described as the swallowing of clouds, today it's served on almost every street in China. One bowl, with its noodles, veggies, and pork dumplings, is supposed to contain all the nutrients you need. But recent scandals over poisonous toxic food have sickened and killed thousands. In an undercover investigation, we take a closer look at the ingredients that go into wonton soup and find a food industry serving up a cocktail of chemicals. From the vast farmland of the world's largest food-producing nation to its markets and kitchens, adulterated food products are putting lives at risk. And it's troubling for the rest of the globe too, as made-in-China food is increasingly being exported to a table near you. I'm Steve Chow. On this edition of 101 East, we're chasing a toxic trail of ingredients tainting China's food supply. And we're doing it by following the making of one of Asia's most iconic dishes, a seemingly simple bowl of wonton noodle soup. Long before others are up, Chef Wu Jinyun is already starting his day. One of China's most renowned wonton soup makers, he's spent every morning since his youth working up the perfect bowl. It's a labor of love.
My family has done this for generations. When this skill was passed on to me, I vowed to give it my 100%, so people can taste the same traditional bowl of noodle soup as centuries ago.
With recent scandals in China over tainted food, Wu's agreed to show us how real food should be made. The key to great taste, he says, is using natural ingredients, nothing artificial. Another ingredient is time. He stews his broth for hours. Only at sunrise does Wu turn his attention to other elements of the wonton dish. Flour and eggs are mixed, kneaded, and pounded into dough until it becomes the right consistency to be cut into his signature noodles.
My noodles are made by hand and with lots of patience. Only the exact amount of time and ingredients will get it tasting silky smooth.
Wu knows to many his methods seem slow and outdated, especially in the fast-paced world of the new modern China. Today, the busy lives of a new generation has meant people want their food quickly. The danger, Wu says, is they have little time to think about what they're putting into their mouths. That, he says, allows a profit-hungry food industry to take advantage. I've come to Beijing, the heart of the country, to meet a man who promises to show me the dark and dirty secrets of the food trade. Hey, Wang 先生你好。
哎，你好，你好，你好。
所以你大概做菜有20多年了。
到目前为止24年。
24年。For more than 20 years, Wang Zhichang has worked as a chef in a multitude of restaurants and has made more than his fair share of wonton noodles. But as each year goes by, he feels lives are increasingly being put at risk.
At
the moment, the public can't even fathom the scale of how much illegal additives are being used in food. China's safety problem has reached such epic proportions that it needs to be addressed. The problem is so extreme.
We come to a wholesale market, which I'm told sells many illegal food additives. Filming with hidden cameras, we make our way through the rows of shops. They offer everything a modern restaurant needs, all in large quantities. The first store Wang takes me to has walls stocked with bottles upon bottles of chemicals. They're additives, and according to Wang, some of them are toxic. Harmful industrial solvents like melamine have on occasion been found inside these chemical mixes. Wang zeroes in on ones that simulate the flavor of the meat in wontons. With them, he says, you don't have to use any real meat when cooking. At a second store, Wang asks for a flavoring for his wonton soup, one that will substitute for hours of stewing. Then suddenly, he decides to put the shopkeeper on the spot. She's either misguided or outright lying. Under Chinese law, selling items without detailed lists of ingredients is a crime. With the shopkeeper getting suspicious, we quickly buy the soup flavoring, along with other additives, and leave. We head for Wang's kitchen.
今天晚上我们到市场，你看采购了很多种的添加剂。
Wang wants to show me how easy it is to make a fully artificial bowl of wonton noodles, one he says many restaurants today serve. He guarantees it will taste exactly like the real thing.
普通的我们的面粉。
Master Wu, the authentic wonton soup maker, uses eggs to give his noodles texture and color. Wang adds a mysterious white powder to flour. He says he has no idea what it's made of, but it's a fraction of the cost of eggs and gives the dough its needed consistency.
这么一按，你看很有弹性，这面就算修好了。
There's no need to spend hours working the dough. In just a few minutes, it's ready to be cut into noodles. For the wontons, Master Wu uses real pork meat for the filling. But Wang says many restaurants these days use an artificial filler. It's basically another powder. But when water is added, the transformation to meat begins. Again, we have no idea what it's made of.
这么看呢，我们现在呢还不像猪肉馅儿，是吧？缺少什么呀？缺少颜色。那么怎么办啊？我们下面再加一种橙红色的着色剂。
Wang says the use of colored additives beyond the legal limits set by the government is a common practice.
闻闻它的香味还没有，那么香味怎么办啊？
Thanks to our range of unknown substances, we see what started out as powder take on the smell, taste, and texture of real meat.
不错，感觉就是猪肉的香味也有了。
Wang begins to cook the wontons and noodles. What took Master Wu hours is ready in just a few minutes.
好，我们现在这一碗色香美味的云吞面就做好了。
While the thought is a bit disgusting, it's time for a taste test. So Master Wang says that this fake bowl of wonton noodle soup tastes exactly like the real thing.
Okay.
It's time to give it a try. There's certainly lots of flavor. The texture may not be exactly right, but if you were sitting in a restaurant slurping this down, you probably couldn't tell the difference. The big question is, what is this bowl doing to your body? But Wang says it's profit, not health, that restaurants are concerned about. This bowl costs just 20 cents to make. It's 5 times cheaper than making it with real ingredients.
这种人的这种利益熏心。
These vendors are blinded by greed. The temptation of money has corroded the souls of many people. They put profit above all other things.
To find out just what toxins are lurking inside, we send our additives, along with our fake bowl of wontons, to a lab for testing. Meanwhile, we decide to delve further into the issue and visit more additives markets around the country. We want to try to buy borax. It's a chemical once commonly used to bleach noodles, but was banned last year in China. Borax is considered a poison. It's also a pesticide and fungicide. With hidden cameras rolling, my translator and I pose as restaurateurs and visit this shop.
龙虾就工业级的话，
你们有没有卖的？
工业就有。
一瓶是500克的。
对。
那个
7块5。7
块。
We were very clear with the shopkeeper just now that we wanted to buy borax to use in noodles, and still he was willing to sell it to us. 500 grams or half a kilo is going for about $1.50 US. Considering how cheap that is, you have to suspect that it's still being commonly used in noodles, despite it being illegal to do so. In 2008, unscrupulous food producers were caught targeting the most vulnerable. Hundreds of thousands of children were rushed to hospital after they were fed toxic melamine in their infant formula. Normally used to make plastics and tabletops, investigators discovered producers were using it to artificially boost protein levels in milk powder. Once eaten, it can cause kidney stones and kidney failure. While 21 food producers in all were found guilty, the government sent only a handful of people to jail. 2 were executed. To this day, 8-year-old Xini Lin has yet to recover from the melamine that poisoned her. Her mother has invited us to join them on one of their regular visits to hospital. Xini Lin looks like any other energetic child, but her mom says she's often very sick.
She's extremely weak and constantly feels pain in her back near the kidneys. Sometimes her face turns green and her lips get pale. She's even passed out before.
Today, Xini Lin is going for an ultrasound. Our producer takes her in as we film with hidden cameras. Xini Lin's mom says the state-run hospital has been covering up how sick her daughter really is in order to downplay the melamine scandal. Inside, the medical technician gets Xini Lin ready for the ultrasound, which is supposed to determine if she has kidney stones. Right from the start, the technician seems suspicious. In the first ultrasound before the melamine scandal became big news, doctors discovered she had a number of stones. Another clinic confirmed that diagnosis. But in following tests after the scandal, the state-run hospital changed their tune. And today is no different. But our producer sees white spots in the kidney scans and pushes the technician for answers. While denying there's anything seriously wrong, doctors continue to give Xini Lin Chinese herbal medicine to help clear the calcification. Unable to afford expensive private clinics, her family has no choice but to come back to the state-run hospital. Her mother sees at what she sees as injustice.
The government hasn't done anything. It only covers things up and evades responsibility. Officials from the province and village level have even warned me they will arrest me if I don't keep quiet.
Without much money, Xini Lin resorts to questionable household remedies, like jumping on a trampoline to try to shake the kidney stones out. The vegetables they eat come from their own garden and are pesticide-free. The family also goes to great lengths to ensure the rest of the food they eat is organic. Still, whenever her mother sees her ill, it breaks her heart.
Why do you keep speaking out, despite the threats, despite the orders to stay silent?
She's all that I have, and they've hurt my most beloved. It's not about money. It's more importantly because I cannot tolerate their treatment.
Without public accountability, her mother believes more children will be hurt by tainted food. Since the melamine scandal, there have been numerous other examples, from the sale of oil recycled from the gutter, to watermelons exploding due to being overly juiced with growth hormones, to rat meat sold as pork.
I always say either we starve to death or we die of toxic foods. It's just a matter of time. We're all in one cesspit.
Policing the world's most populous nation isn't easy. In 2012, more than half of all food producers failed government tests. And even today, in places like wet markets, many sellers remain unlicensed.
When you walk through a massive market like this, you really get a sense of how large China's food industry is. At one time, the Chinese government gave the responsibility for ensuring food safety to 10 different ministries. You can imagine the complications that causes and the overlapping jurisdictions. Now the Chinese government is trying to change things.
Officials say they are now centralizing control under a few ministries and are also drafting what they hail as their toughest food law to date. But at this market in the capital, food safety expert Fan Ronghui finds lots of things still wrong, including excessive growth hormones in produce like bean sprouts.
Likely something was used, like plant growth regulator, that can make the sprouts grow to this shape and size.
At this stall, the shopkeeper dodges our cameras. That leads Fan to inspect the cow tripe. It smells of industrial chemicals. We ask him to buy the tripe and go to our next location, where Fan has set up a portable food testing kit. Tripe is a popular ingredient in noodle soups in Asia. But Fan says in China, many vendors use industrial chemicals to make it appear fresher. He applies a testing agent.
哇，有变颜色。
变颜色是吧？而且非常快的变颜色。
所以这个是什么意思？
你看到颜色变得很好看了。但是说这说明一个问题，第一说工业碱。
The color, says Fan, indicates that industrial-grade sodium hydroxide is present. Normally used in metal making and printing, some use it illegally to preserve food. Being highly corrosive, it's not meant to be ingested.
为什么现在很多医院人满为患？
Why are hospitals now so crowded? People are getting sick, not due to natural reasons like getting old, but because of the unsafe food we are eating that makes us ill.
While in Beijing, we're invited to an expo on food safety. It seems after the recent food scandals, the government is abandoning its usual rhetoric. The official here offers a realistic picture of the challenges they face.
食品安全领域仍然存在的生产和安全管理水平还不高，法制和标准体系还不完善。商务部会同有关部门。
Afterwards, I try to get in a word with the official to ask him about the government's efforts. But he waves us off and prefers instead to rub elbows with companies marketing the latest in clean food technology. Food safety is a big business opportunity in China these days, and there are lots of vendors eager to share the limelight with an important government official. After chasing him around for quite some time, he suddenly decides to leave.
Well, we've been trying to get a comment from this official, but obviously he's not interested in talking with us. It's a little bit frustrating because we chased him all through this exhibition. Despite that, he's leaving now.
To learn more about the government's efforts, we speak to a researcher at a state-funded institute. He insists the food safety situation has changed.
Since 2008, government departments have made many efforts in food supervision. They're trying to improve the safety of the whole food supply system. And I can say food safety in China is now guaranteed.
But that's certainly not what we discover. Pork is a key ingredient to wonton noodles, and so we decide to visit a pig farm. No one's around at this one, but littering the ground are numerous packages of medicine. So we go in for a closer look. In 2012, China produced more than 50 million metric tons of pork. That's several times more than any other country on the planet.
And what do we have here? Wow. This is a shelf full of chemicals.
They're drugs meant to treat all sorts of livestock sicknesses. Some even advertise that they can help pigs grow faster.
Oh wow, look at this. This is a box of general antibiotics. You see the powder here. The government has been trying to get tougher on the amount of antibiotics as well as growth hormones being used in farm animals. But as you can see here, this whole shelf is full of it. And you have to wonder what kind of chemical cocktail these pigs are being injected with.
Studies show the overuse of antibiotics, especially in livestock, are creating bacteria resistant to medicine. And those bacteria can easily jump to humans when we consume the meat.
Hey there.
One of the owners suddenly appears. We turn on our hidden cameras and pose as tourists. My translator joins me as we take a tour around the farm. He admits no one controls how much medicine he uses. He also shows us the feed, known often to contain growth hormones. He says in just a few months, his pigs gain more than 100 kilos. We then ask him about business cards found outside his gate, offering to buy sick and dead pigs. Selling sick and dead animals is illegal, but it's not the only problem we find in the area. Another issue is the overuse of pesticides. Recent studies show that most farmland in China is today heavily contaminated by them. Scattered around this farm, we find used pesticide packages. Wang Jing from Greenpeace joins us here. She spent the last 4 years studying the impact of insecticides.
这里是辅酶和辅美霜是两种有效成分混合的一种农药。
Some of them have been banned since the 1980s. Greenpeace's own research found farmers in China on average use up to 5 times the amount of pesticides as elsewhere in the world. On one farm, the group filmed pesticides killing chicks on the spot. The group says oftentimes more than a dozen different toxins are used together.
Today in China, our addiction to pesticides and fertilizers is making food safety the most serious of issues. Not a single day passes where we feel safe and happy with our lives, because this issue has yet to be addressed.
As public alarm grows over the harm of toxins, some in the food industry are stepping in to help. These aren't shoppers. They're a team of inspectors Walmart has hired to make surprise visits to their 140 stores in China. After being caught in recent scandals over meat and other tainted products, the grocery giant is now spending more than $50 million to try to ensure their products are clean. The testers collect random samples, which are then taken to a mobile van. Each item is run through a cycle of tests. If pesticides, growth hormones, or toxic industrial agents are found, a supplier can be blacklisted. But Walmart's lead food inspector admits the industry is often one step ahead, introducing new harmful substances that tests can't detect.
This is really a tough battle. Like the saying goes, while the priest climbs a post, the devil climbs 10. But we're doing our best to constantly upgrade our testing capabilities to provide our customers with safe food.
The sheer volume of products Walmart must inspect is another challenge. This is one of their distribution centers. In many ways, it offers a small window into the huge difficulties that lie in policing the country's food supply chain. A difficulty that is becoming a global issue as China increasingly exports its food worldwide. Still, authorities argue they're already doing their best.
I'll challenge inspection chiefs from the US, the EU, the UK, or elsewhere to try and tackle the Chinese market. I don't think they would dare to.
But are authorities trying to make excuses for a lack of trying? In our undercover investigation following the trail of ingredients for wonton noodle soup, we found food suppliers operating with very little supervision and oversight, from the farms to the markets to the kitchens. As for the fake bowl of wonton noodles, Our tests found a number of toxic substances. In the flour used for noodles, there was formaldehyde, which is used to preserve dead bodies. But when eaten, it can cause liver cancer. In the mysterious white powder which we use to give noodles their bouncy texture, there were poisonous metals like lead, cadmium, and arsenic. The lab also found borax, the same illegal chemical we found for sale at the additives market. It's so toxic that just a teaspoon can kill a child. There are those who offer hope for China's food system. Wu Jinyun's restaurant is packed daily with customers happy to have food they can trust.
The noodles in most other places have too heavy a chemical taste. The ones here, though, taste clean and sweet.
In an industry that's become driven by profit, Wu hopes his individual stand will somehow improve food safety. His mission to preserve a tradition of honest food making is truly a lonely uphill battle.
هاي ابراهيم وين؟ ترى اعرفه وين في الفيلم؟ تقريبا خليونه. طبعا انا بستناه، كان شباب المنزل وهالبيت يلا. خلاص ماشي انا بستناه. سلام.
زين
لما بدنا نيجي نفحر النفق نحدد وين احسن مكان اللي نفحر فيه. في انفاق بتنفحر بتنزل في الارض 50 متر، في انفاق بتنزل 18، في نفق فحرناه نزول 8 متر في الارض. لا يضوي روح.
نيجي بندور وين اقرب مكان، فهم علي كيف؟ اللي يريحنا، الاقرب اللي يصل الهم، اللي يريحنا وين منزل قريب اللي نشتريه مثلا نفتح منه عين ارض ننزل نزول فيه 27 متر في الارض. مثلا بنتفق مع الامين المصري بعد ما ننزل في الارض قديش مثلا مساحه مثلا من عندنا من هنا مثلا وين بحدد له انا المكان تبعي.
هم بيجلبوا اموال انا تنخمنيش ابعدوا عنا بلاش الموتور يقطع صبيع الناس. ايوه
بيتم الاتصال على الجانب المصري، بيحكوا معاه بسبيل انه بدنا نطلع عندك اشاره في المنطقه الفلانيه، بيطلعوا اشاره بتشوفها طلعت مثلا على جنب الحدود بالضبط، بتقولوا لا نزل الاشاره هذه وقدم لي كمان 100 متر.
بقعد الخط 3 شهور لما نكون احنا نشتغل فيه شفتين، وبقعد 6 شهور لما نشتغل فيه شفت واحد، وعدد الانفاق في الرفح من 1000 ل 1500 نفر.
نزل
خلاص وقت الحمد لله على السلامة والله. هي عندك معلم سوى استنى مرة واحدة.
مرات بيطلبوا حصمة، اسمنت، حديد، دخان، ايش مكان السكر، حتى قطع الغيار السيارات، كل اشي بيخطر في بالك. يعني الاحتلال الاسرائيلي مسكر عليه ممنوع يدخل من كارني ومعبر بيت حنون، بيجي من الانفاق.
الانفاق كما يعلم الجميع بانها قد فرجت كرب كبير على قطاع غزة. اليوم كل شيء موفر في قطاع غزة، ذلك بفضل الله عز وجل، ثم بفضل وجهود أبنائنا الذين يعملون في حدود في الأنفاق. إسرائيل اليوم ومن قبل وستبقى تلاحق الأنفاق بحجة أنها تدخل السلاح إلى قطاع غزة، وهذا غير صحيح.
السلام عليكم، ايش اخبارك؟
كيف البضاعة؟ ايش جبتوا بضاعة من الأنفاق؟
والله بنجيب بمبز وبنجيب شمنت وبنجيب حصمة وبنجيب حديد. ايش بدك انت بضاعة احنا بنجيب لك اياها من الأنفاق.
خلص حبيبنا الله يرضى عليك، لأنه بدنا بضاعة احنا الحمل هذا، جيب السيارة تبعت اللي هذا وبدنا ننقي بضاعة.
توكل على الله. السلام عليكم.
الجانب الإنساني في الشباب اللي بتشتغل من تعيين الجامعات ولا طلاب مدارس ولا حتى لو كانوا عمال وعاطلين عن العمل وبيجي توجهوا للأنفاق، لأنه هي المصدر الرزق الوحيد الموجود للشعب الفلسطيني، ما فيش بديل. طلاب بخلصوا توجيهي ما فيش معهم تذكرة انهم يسافروا برا، حتى بتلاقيهم ممنوعين انهم يسافروا. وين بده يروح؟
أنا جيت من شمال غزة على مدينة رفح لأجل أشتغل في هذه الأنفاق، وأنا كنت عارف وبعرف الكلام هذا وبسمع في الأخبار إنه بصير هان قتل كثير وبصير موتى، وأنا بعرف إنه الشغلة هذه خطيرة من الجانب المصري ومن الجانب الإسرائيلي ومن جانب الوطن العربي كله. أنا مش قادر أعيش، أنا مش قادر أدفع رسوم للجامعة، أنا عندي إخوة وأطفال، لكن جيت هان أعيش. أنا كنت على راس القطع عم بولت امبارح، كنت جوا الرمل هال علي، أنا كنت جوا وطلعت واحد، أنا طلعت نفسي وطلعت زميلي في الشغل، زميلي طلعته وسحبته من تحت الرمل.
50 عائلة عايشة من وراء النفق هذا، فيش مصدر شغل عندنا غير الأنفاق. بالنسبة لحياتنا حياة بأس كلها مرار، شباب كل يوم بتموت في الأنفاق، أولاد صغار هيهم وبدهم يعيشوا.
يا باسل في عندك يا اخي ناس ارفع لفوق يا عم، مرفوع باسل الستيك تبعك.
باسل
فوق
باسل ايش سحبت؟
لسه
ليش؟ طيب شو من عندك السلك؟
بروح كل سنة بروح بعمل السلك.
اسحب طيب. الله اكبر.
اسحب يا باشا.
احمد ايش بتسحب؟ طيب يلا.
محمد افهمني يا اخي اسمع. لف حالك عشان يشوف الخط وماشي عشان الوجه وعشان راسك. خلاص وقف يا احمد وقف خلاص.
فيكم تشدوني لجوا؟ شدوني لجوا لانه خنقه هنا.
اهلا وسهلا
حبيبي الله يسعدك. طب انا كيف؟ بدك تحمل حمل اذا تحمل.
عمي شوي بس وقف شوي.
يلا
في طلاب كثيرة طلعت ودرست في الخارج فمش قادرة ترجع تشوف أهلها. اللي أمه ماتت وفي نفس الوقت ممنوع يقلط الحدود بشكل رسمي فبده يجي البلاد وفي حنين الوطن يا عمي قد ما يكون بده يرجع فبتم التنسيق عن طريق الأنفاق بسبيل إنه بده يجي.
بعدين مرحبا كيف حالك؟ اهلا وسهلا ببلادنا كيف الصحة؟ الحمد لله على السلامة. الحمد لله على السلامة.
الحمد لله يا شيخ تمام؟ تمام. كيف بدنا نفوت هالجيت؟
الحقيقة من الخط كيلومترين ماشي تطلع على مراحل من النجمة للنجمة. ان شاء الله توصل بالسلامة.
ان شاء الله.
واهلا وسهلا فيك.
يعني انتم بتعرفوا قطاع غزة محاصر ومعابر مسكرة وانا عندي دراسة في مصر يعني بدي اجي اشوف اهلي فما لقيتش وسيله ولا سبيل الا الانفاق فالانفاق هي اللي اتاحت لي الفرصه اني افوت غزه خيروني قالوا لي تنزل من تحت الارض ولا ما تفوتش غزه قلت لهم لا بدي انزل من تحت الارض يعني كانت تجربه صعبه يعني النفس ادوبي اتنفس بين حياه وموت كنت وانت بتعرف يعني النفق كله متر في متر وعلى طول الخط كيلو و100 متر يعني اكيد قبر بس كبير شوي.
روح هيا هني
بتقول يعني الانفاق حلت مشاكل كثيره اللي بقول لك ما حلت مشاكل اقتصاديه ولا اجتماعيه ولا نفسيه حتى لانه اول شيء بتصير فيها بترخرخ الاقتصاد هنا عندنا وفي نفس الوقت بنستفيد ماليا يعني عندك اغلبيه العمال اللي كانوا يشتغلوا في اسرائيل الاف بل الاف اليوم وين لهم شغل في عدم الحصار هذا كله هي بتوجه للانفاق رغم انه موت ومخاطره يعني
هذا سكر الجيب جبت الشيف احمد ايوه يضاوي حبيبي الشيف هو اللي ضاوي
لا شايف
للاخر ننزل
توكل الله يمكن الحقهم
يلا محمود.
هذا الكشاف احمد.
محمود الثاني. استنى
هذا جوا فرجيك وين مات خالد ومات أسامة ومحمد.
هذا النفق لسه كان في اول تنزيل، لسه تنزل في الخط. نزلوا الشباب عسبت ينزلوا يشتغلوا. المهم بلغ مصريين في عين هتنقصف هتنضرب. مش العين اللي احنا فيها، هذه عين ثانيه. انت عارف نظام الخطوطين خاشين على بعض. في الصدفه اجوا بلغوا صاحب الخط انهم قالوا له يعني انه في هنا بدها تضرب عين. طب وضرب. وين نعرف الصواريخ تمشي من فوقينا، يعني فوقينا صواريخ والعمال لسه تحت بيشتغلوا في الخطوط، يعني انضرب الخط اللي جنبه بتأذى اللي جنبه بتأذى اللي جنبه بتأذى اللي جنبه، يعني من ضربة خط مثلا ممكن يموتوا 20 30 واحد مع بعض. وقف الشغل عند الشباب قلنا بصير ايش في بعد ما انضربت العين. بعد شوي هيك نزلوا كم من شاب، نزلوا 2 3 اول 2 3 مرقوا دايخين بردك ومرتمين عندهم جوا. خشوا طلعوا الشباب اول شيء اللي برا، في كذا شاب اللي مرمى على الدشمه كان، اللي مرمى على المطور، يعني كل واحد بمكانه كان. اللي مشفر حاله تشفير من ريحه الغاز، موزعين حالهم يعني تمزيع باقيين. طلعناهم مرميين، اللي مرمى فوق الكيس واللي مرمى هنا، فاهم علي كيف؟ وفي كمان يمكن شابين كمان مرميين جوا. باقيين يعني من الروح بيجروا، يعني بدهم يجروا وبقلب، بيجروا وبقلب.
أنا بطلت أجمع، أنا قلت إحنا كل أصحابي ما ضل شيء أصحاب يعني، لا أنا بقيت أشتغل معاهم وأروح أنا وياهم ونشتغل مع بعض راح. يعني أنا بقيت أنا وخالد على فرشة واحدة، كنا ناكل مع بعض. أجي هيك ما لقيت إلا راح. بس من بعد ما مات خالد الله يرحمه، أنا ومحمد أخوي صرنا نقول بدناش، صار يقول لي أخوي إحنا خلاص ما بدناش نشتغل الأنفاق، لأنه أنا يعني كل أصحابي راح. لا أنا بقيت أشتغل معاهم وأروح أنا وياهم ونشتغل مع بعض راح.
مش فاضي.
يلا شباب شدوا تتخربوش ونلعب يعني نتصور.
في يوم من الأيام بقيت مخنوق، يعني بقى علي ديون ومش عارف من وين أجيب مصاري. اللي هو بتصل عليه بسام، حكيت معاه قال لي بدنا تشتغل معنا يا محمود قلت له خلاص ماشي بسام بشتغل معه. قال لي طب تعال نعرف، أنت عارف الخط اللي بنشتغل فيه. هاي النفق اللي كنا شغالين فيه، هذه المنطقة واحنا نازلين بقى تخبط في ظهري من هنا، ظهري مفتح منها. مع مر الأيام صرنا يعني صارت زي الخشب هذه زي أختي وأبوي وأمي، أقول هذه باكل منها هو. واشتغلنا في الخط هذا برضه كمان أنا وبسام. نزلنا نشتغل عادي بأمان الله، صفق علينا الخط في الشتاء هذا الكلام. خلاص اتضايقنا وتحصرنا من كل حاجة. صرت أزعق إنهم هم يسمعوني أنا أسمعهم، فيش ربط كلام بيني وبينهم ولا حاجة. واحنا تحت بقينا مخنوقين، مش عارفين لا ميه ولا شرب ولا اكل ولا حاجه. يومين قعدنا.
انا نفسي مرته سبت بيته وسبت اولاده ورحت على النفق نفسه، طلعت في المنظر كان رهيب جدا جدا، والحمد لله يعني تقبلنا المصيبه واحنا بنتصل جوالات وندور عليه. فاجوا يعني الناس قالوا لي ما تخافيش عليه، احتمال يكون طلع على الجانب المصري، يعني شويه يعطونا نسبه امل انه يكون كويس. فاشي يقول لي في النفق وهينا سمعنا صوته كويس ساعات وحنطلع لك اياه بخير.
جابوا 80 عامل. بعد ما جابت 80 عامل ادوهم المصاري. الحكومة يعني جابت عمال ومصاري وشي زي هيك، العمال ما رضيش ينزلوا الغرب مصاري. الحين لما دخلوا العمال جوا ما عرفوش كيف بده يلاقوهم، صاروا كل ما يمشوا متر يبحشوا ايش في ايديهم، كل ما يمشوا متر يبحشوا في ايديهم، لما بحشوا في ايديهم ايش طلعت ريحة، قالوا خلاص هاي الأولاد في المكان هذا. اشتغلوا يوم واثنين وثلاثة ورابع، رابع يوم في الليل لقوهم يعني شافوهم.
يحكي يا راجل.
زيح الحبل هيك، زيح الستايل. بالراحة وقف أظن. خلص بالراحة.
تعال لي 5 دقائق تكون عندي وخلاص. تعال 5 دقائق تطلع أنا وياك على المستشفى. تعال بسرعة. وين؟ صاحي؟
وبسام مات لقدام شوية، يعني الكباشات بدوا يفحروا من قدام 50 متر من هين. فحروا يعني فحروا 8 أيام هم بفحروا لما طالوا بسام. فلما طالوا بسام ما كانش يعني منظر بسام طبيعي بقى. الله يعني مش عارف أنا كيف أهله تحملوا إنهم يشوفوا بسام.
يعني لما طلوهم قالوا لو يعني شد اجر واحد، الاجر واحد حتنقطع لانهم فيش اللحم عندهم دايب. بعد ما شلوهم طلعوهم وودوهم على المستشفى.
صاروا يتكاتلوا عليه، قالوا هو مش هو، بس لما شافوا منظره هذلوا كلهم. يعني بقول لك راسه هالقد وجسمه هالقد و100 كيلو، هذا مش اخونا، بتعرفيه؟ قلت لهم انا بعرفه من الاواعي اللي لابسهم.
لقوا بلوزه مخططه، قطعوا من البلوز شوي ورجوها لمرته.
قطعوا قطعه من بلوزته جابوا لي اياها، وللاسف طلع هو.
احنا لما طلنا بسام حطيناه في حرام، لانه لما بدي اشيل بسام يمكن ايده تطلع في ايدي او رجله تطلع في ايدي، لانه بسام بقى منقوع بميه وطينه 8 ايام. مين بني ادم بكون له 108 ايام ومش مدفون؟ اهله بدوروا عليه عشان ياخذوه ويدفنوه. عشان هيك لما بنشتغل في الموت بنشتغلش من قله، بنشتغل من اللي احنا بنشوفه، بنشتغل من الديون، من الهم، من اللي احنا عايشين فيه، من الاكل، من الشرب، مش من قله الواحد بيشتغل في الانفاق.
فلسطين عمرها ما كانت هيك، دائما هيك، كل 12 سنه بتصير لها نكسه بتنقلب. اتراك مروا هنا، عثمانيين، انجليز، مصريين، كله حكموا هالبلاد، لانه دور الحكومات انتهى، فبتحس انه الدور هذا هو اللي ماشي. شيء اللي مش مشروع خلوا الشعب يحسوا انه هذا الطبيعي ومشروع. لكن احنا كشعب غزه وتعودنا من اجدادنا انه بناكل اللقمه من تم الاسد، بنسحبها وبنعيش علشان نضمنا على هالارض.
بوجه نصيحة لأي مرة من نساء قطاع غزة، كلي دقة وملح وما تخليش جوزك ينحرم إنه ينام حواليك وحوالين أولادك. يعني العالم تنظر لنا بعين الشفقة. انا بحكي لكل وحده تدير بالها على حالها وتدير بالها على جوزها، ما تطلعوش للموت ولا الانفاق، حتى لو بدهاش تاكل اصلا. والله انا بقول لك انا اللي بحس فيه ما حد بحس فيه. يعني انا قاعد لحالي الحين من كثر التفكير راسي كانت تجعني تلمني كثير، مش عارف كيف بدي اربي هدول، مش عارف ايش بدي اسوي. يعني كل شيء صار علي انا، صرت انا الام، صرت انا الابو، مش عارف ايش بدي اسوي، ايش بدي اقول لك.